The sound of clinking champagne glasses echoed through the elegant ballroom of the Grand Meridian Hotel as Flynn Novick shifted uncomfortably in his tailored Armani suit, wishing he could be anywhere else but at his younger brother's rehearsal dinner. At 34, Flynn had built a real estate empire worth over $200 million, but all that wealth couldn't buy him escape from family obligations or from the curious stares of wedding guests who recognized the notorious Manhattan property king. "There's my big brother." Eric's voice boomed as he approached, his arm wrapped around his fiancée, Melanie. "I was starting to think you weren't going to show up." Flynn forced a smile. "And miss your big weekend, not a chance." He leaned in to kiss Melanie on the cheek. "The venue looks beautiful. You've outdone yourself." "Oh, I can't take credit," Melanie laughed. "My sister Zara handled everything. Speaking of which," she turned, scanning the crowd. "Where is she, Zara?" Flynn followed Melanie's gaze and felt the air leave his lungs. Walking toward them was a woman with dark copper hair cascading over bare shoulders, her emerald green dress flowing around her as she moved. Unlike most women who approached him, there was no calculation in her eyes, just a genuine warmth that caught him off guard. "Sorry, I was finalizing details with the catering manager," she said, slightly breathless. She turned to Flynn with an outstretched hand. "You must be the elusive older brother. I'm Zara Keller." The moment their hands touched, Flynn felt a jolt that had nothing to do with static electricity. "Flynn Novick," he managed. "Pleasure to meet you." "So you're the real estate mogul," Zara said, her hazel eyes studying him with interest rather than the usual dollar sign fixation he was accustomed to. "Melanie says you're responsible for half the skyline changes in Manhattan," Flynn shrugged. "I just have good timing and better luck." "And modesty, apparently," Zara replied with a laugh that did something strange to Flynn's chest, a rare quality in successful men. Before Flynn could respond, Eric pulled him away to meet some distant relatives, but throughout the evening his eyes kept finding Zara across the room. She moved with purpose, checking on servers, adjusting flower arrangements, making sure everyone had what they needed. Not once did she stop to relax or enjoy herself. Later, as the dinner portion of the evening wound down, Flynn found himself at the bar beside her. "You know," he said, "most maids of honor just have to show up and look pretty. You're running this entire event like a military operation." Zara accepted the glass of sparkling water the bartender handed her. "Melanie has enough to worry about. Besides, event planning is what I do. My company specializes in high-end celebrations." "Ah, so this is a professional showcase," Flynn nodded. "No," Zara's eyes flashed. "This is me making sure my sister has the perfect wedding weekend. My business has nothing to do with it." Flynn realized his mistake immediately. "I apologize. I didn't mean to imply it's fine," she cut him off, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm used to people assuming I have ulterior motives. Like assuming all successful real estate developers are cold-blooded sharks." Flynn raised an eyebrow. Zara studied him for a moment, then laughed. "Touché, Mr. Novick." "Flynn," he corrected. "Mr. Novick makes me sound like my father." Something in his tone must have revealed more than he intended because her expression softened. "Not a comparison you enjoy," Flynn swirled the scotch in his glass. "Let's just say my father taught me exactly what kind of businessman I didn't want to be. And what kind is that?" "The kind who values properties over people." Zara nodded thoughtfully. "Is that why you established those community housing initiatives in Brooklyn?" Melanie mentioned them. Flynn was surprised. Most people only knew about his luxury developments. "That's not something I advertise." "No, you wouldn't," Zara said. "The most meaningful things rarely are." A server approached with a problem requiring Zara's attention, and she excused herself, leaving Flynn with the distinct feeling he'd just met someone who saw past his bank account and public persona. As the evening progressed, Flynn found himself gravitating toward Zara repeatedly. When the hired band began playing and couples took to the dance floor, he found her standing alone, watching her sister and Eric with a soft smile. "May I?" Flynn extended his hand. Zara hesitated. "I'm supposed to be working." "One dance," he said. "Everything's running perfectly. You've earned it." She placed her hand in his, and he led her to the dance floor. As he placed his hand on her waist, he was struck by how perfectly she fit against him. They moved together effortlessly, as if they'd danced 100 times before. "So, Flynn Novick," Zara said, "what does a millionaire real estate developer do for fun when he's not building skyscrapers or attending family functions? Would you believe me if I said I restore vintage motorcycles?" Her eyes widened. "No, it's true. I have a workshop in my building's basement. It drives my security team crazy, but it keeps me sane." The music swelled and Flynn guided her through a turn. "What about you when you're not orchestrating perfect events?" "I paint," Zara admitted. "Terrible, abstract things that no one but me understands." "I'd like to see them sometime," Flynn said, surprised by his own sincerity. Zara looked up at him, skepticism clear in her expression. "Why?" "Because I think they'd tell me more about you than this conversation ever could." The song ended and Zara stepped back, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. "You're an interesting man, Flynn Novick. Is that good or bad? I haven't decided yet." With a small smile, she walked away, leaving Flynn more intrigued than he'd been by any woman in years. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of toasts and traditions. When it was time to leave, Flynn found himself reluctant to go. He sought out Zara to say goodbye and found her in a quiet corner reviewing notes for the following day. "Always working," he commented. She looked up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Someone has to make sure tomorrow goes off without a hitch. I've no doubt it will be perfect." Flynn paused. "Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night, after the wedding?" Zara blinked in surprise. "You can't be serious." "I am, actually. Flynn, I'll be exhausted, so will you. Besides, I live in Boston, you're in New York. Breakfast the next morning then, before you head back to Boston." When she hesitated, he added, "Just breakfast." Two people getting to know each other without the chaos of wedding festivities. Zara studied him for a long moment. "Why?" It was a simple question, but Flynn found himself answering with unexpected honesty. "Because in a room full of people trying to impress me or get something from me, you're the only one who seemed completely uninterested in what I could do for you. It's refreshing." A slow smile spread across Zara's face. "Breakfast, just breakfast." "Just breakfast," Flynn promised, though he already knew he wanted much more than that. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful. Flynn performed his duties as best man with practiced charm, but his attention kept drifting to Zara, who moved through the day with graceful efficiency. She delivered a heartfelt maid of honor speech that left many guests wiping away tears, including Flynn. At the reception, they shared another dance, this time with less conversation and more unspoken tension between them. When their hands touched, Flynn felt that same electric connection, and from the way Zara's breath caught, he knew she felt it too. As the reception wound down and the newlyweds prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Flynn approached Zara again. "Still on for breakfast tomorrow?" he asked. She nodded, a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. 8 o'clock in the hotel restaurant. "I'll be there," Flynn promised. That night, lying in his hotel suite, Flynn found himself more nervous about a simple breakfast than he'd been about multi-million-dollar business deals. There was something about Zara Keller that disarmed him completely. The next morning, Flynn arrived at the restaurant at 7:45, not wanting to risk being late. To his surprise, Zara was already there, seated at a quiet table by the window. She wore a simple blue sundress, her hair loose around her shoulders, looking far more relaxed than she had all weekend. "You're early," he said as he sat down across from her. "Professional habit," she replied. "I'm always the first to arrive, last to leave." They ordered coffee and breakfast, and as they waited, an awkward silence fell between them. "This is ridiculous," Zara finally said. "We've been talking nonstop all weekend." Flynn chuckled. "I think that's the difference. We had distractions before, now it's just us." "So tell me something I don't know about you," she challenged. "Something that isn't in Forbes or Business Insider." Flynn thought for a moment. "I almost became an architect instead of a developer. I still draw building designs sometimes, even though I have a team of architects on staff." "Why didn't you pursue it?" "My father," Flynn admitted. "He considered it beneath a Novick to be just an architect. We were meant to own the buildings, not design them." Zara frowned. That seems short-sighted. Some of the most influential people in real estate have been architect-developers. You know something about real estate? My father was in construction, she explained. Small scale compared to your operations, but I grew up around building sites and blueprints. Their food arrived and the conversation flowed more easily. Flynn learned that Zara had started her event planning business from scratch after college, building it into one of Boston's most sought-after firms. She specialized in creating authentic, personalized celebrations rather than flashy displays of wealth, though many of her clients had plenty to display. What about relationships? Flynn ventured as they finished their meals. Is there someone waiting for you back in Boston? Zara shook her head. Not for a while now. My last relationship ended about a year ago. He couldn't understand why I'd want to work so hard building my own business when he made enough for both of us. Flynn grimaced. His loss. What about you? The magazines are always linking you with models and actresses. The magazines exaggerate, Flynn said. I date, but nothing serious in the last few years. It's hard to know if someone is interested in me or my bank account. Poor little rich boy, Zara teased, but her eyes were kind. When breakfast was over, Flynn walked Zara to her car. Standing in the parking lot, he found himself reluctant to say goodbye. When do you head back to Boston? He asked. This afternoon. I have a client meeting tomorrow morning. She hesitated. This was nice, Flynn. Unexpected, but nice. Flynn took a chance and reached for her hand. I'd like to see you again, Zara. I could come up to Boston next weekend. She looked surprised. You'd come all the way to Boston just for dinner? I would, he said simply. Zara bit her lip, considering. Okay, dinner next Saturday, but I'm choosing the restaurant somewhere normal people go. No five-star establishments where the maitre d' knows your shoe size. Flynn laughed. Deal. He watched her drive away, already counting the days until Saturday. For the first time in years, Flynn felt a sense of anticipation that had nothing to do with business deals or acquisitions. The week crawled by. Flynn buried himself in work, reviewing plans for a new development in Chelsea and attending board meetings, but his mind kept drifting to Zara. On Wednesday, he sent her a text. Still on for Saturday, her response came an hour later. Yes, 7 p.m. I'll text you the address Friday. Friday evening, Flynn's phone pinged with a message from Zara containing the name and address of a restaurant in Boston's North End. He Googled it immediately, a small, family-owned Italian place with excellent reviews but no Michelin stars. Perfect. Flynn arranged for his private jet to fly him to Boston on Saturday afternoon. He checked into a hotel downtown, changed into dark jeans and a casual button-down shirt, and took a car to the restaurant. He arrived 10 minutes early and found Zara already waiting outside, wearing a simple red dress that made his heart skip a beat. You look beautiful, he said as he approached. Zara smiled, a hint of nervousness in her eyes. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself, even without the power suit. Inside, the restaurant was cozy and authentic, with red checked tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. The owner greeted Zara by name, leading them to a corner table partially hidden by a brick archway. You come here often? Flynn asked as they settled in. My grandparents lived in this neighborhood. My grandfather brought me here for my birthday every year until he passed away. Zara's eyes softened with the memory. Best Nakai in Boston. Throughout dinner, Flynn found himself more relaxed than he'd been in years. Zara challenged him intellectually, made him laugh, and didn't seem the least bit impressed by his wealth or status. By the time they shared tiramisu for dessert, Flynn knew he was in serious trouble. Walk with me, he suggested as they left the restaurant. It's a beautiful night. They strolled along the waterfront, talking about everything and nothing. When Zara shivered slightly in the cool evening air, Flynn slipped off his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. Such a gentleman, she teased, but pulled the jacket closer. Don't tell anyone, Flynn replied. It would ruin my ruthless businessman reputation. They reached a small park overlooking the harbor, and Zara led him to a bench. As they sat side by side, watching the lights reflect on the water, Flynn felt a sense of peace he rarely experienced. Can I ask you something personal? Zara said after a comfortable silence, anything. Why did you really ask me to breakfast and then dinner? You could be with anyone, Flynn. Models, celebrities, women who move in your social circles. Flynn turned to face her, considering his words carefully. Because when you look at me, I don't feel like Flynn Novick, millionaire developer. I just feel like Flynn. And that hasn't happened in a very long time. Zara's expression softened. I like Flynn better than Mr. Novick anyway. Unable to resist any longer, Flynn leaned in slowly, giving her plenty of time to pull away. When she didn't, he pressed his lips gently against hers. The kiss was soft, questioning, but when Zara's hand came up to rest against his chest, it deepened into something more intense. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. I wasn't planning on that, Zara whispered. Neither was I, Flynn admitted, but I'm not sorry, neither am I. They walked back to where Zara had parked, holding hands like teenagers. At her car, Flynn kissed her again, this time with more certainty. When can I see you again? He asked. Zara hesitated. Flynn, we live in different cities. We have demanding careers. This is complicated, he finished for her. I know, but I think it could be worth it. She studied his face for a long moment. I'm in New York next weekend for a client meeting, Friday afternoon. Flynn's face broke into a grin. Have dinner with me after, stay the weekend. I'll show you my motorcycle workshop. Just the workshop, Zara raised an eyebrow. And anything else you want to see? Flynn brushed a strand of hair from her face. No pressure, Zara. We'll take this at whatever pace feels right. That was the beginning of what Zara later called their commuter romance. For 2 months, they alternated weekends between Boston and New York. Flynn attended one of Zara's events, a charity gala, where he was impressed by her professional skills. Zara toured Flynn's latest development project and offered insights that actually led him to modify some of the plans. They discovered shared interests, both loved old movies, preferred quiet dinner conversations to loud clubs, and enjoyed exploring small museums off the tourist track. Their differences complemented each other. Flynn's strategic thinking balanced Zara's creative approach. Her emotional intelligence tempered his occasional cynicism. But the distance began to wear on them both. After a particularly wonderful Sunday together in New York, followed by a painful goodbye at the train station, Flynn knew something had to change. I hate this, he said, holding Zara close before she boarded her train. Every Sunday feels worse than the last. I know. Zara pressed her forehead against his chest. But what's the alternative? One of us gives up everything we've built. Flynn pulled back to look at her. What if there's another option? What if I opened a Boston office? Novick Developments has been considering East Coast expansion for years. Zara's eyes widened. Flynn, you can't reorganize your entire company just because I'm falling in love with you. The words slipped out before he could stop them, hanging in the air between them. Zara froze. What did you say? Flynn took a deep breath. He hadn't planned this moment, but now that it was here, he knew it was right. I'm falling in love with you, Zara. Actually, no, I've already fallen. I love you. Tears welled in Zara's eyes. Flynn, you don't have to say it back, he said quickly. I just needed you to know that you're worth reorganizing my life for. This isn't just a convenient arrangement for me. Zara pulled him close and kissed him deeply, not caring who saw them in the middle of the busy station. When she pulled back, her eyes were shining. I love you too, you impossible man. The train announcement interrupted their moment, and Zara reluctantly pulled away. We'll figure this out, she promised. Together. That night, after Zara texted that she'd arrived safely in Boston, Flynn made some calls. By the end of the month, Novick Developments had leased office space in downtown Boston, and Flynn had purchased a penthouse overlooking the harbor conveniently close to Zara's townhouse. 6 months into their relationship, during a weekend trip to the Berkshires, Flynn proposed at sunset on a mountaintop overlooking a valley of fall colors. The ring was his grandmother's, reset with sapphires to match Zara's eyes. I never expected you, he told her as he knelt before her. I went to my brother's rehearsal dinner thinking it would be an obligation to endure. Instead, I found the love of my life. Zara Keller, will you marry me? Through happy tears, Zara said yes. They married the following spring in an intimate ceremony at a historic Boston estate. Eric served as best man, while Melanie, now 7 months pregnant, was matron of honor. Instead of a traditional honeymoon, they spent 2 weeks traveling to all the architectural wonders Flynn had always wanted to see, with Zara sketching alongside him as he drew building details that inspired him. By their first anniversary, Zara had expanded her event planning business to New York, with a second office managed by her trusted assistant. Flynn divided his time between Boston and New York, though he found himself spending more time in Boston as Zara's pregnancy progressed. When their daughter Lily was born, Flynn held her with trembling hands, overcome with an emotion he'd never experienced. "She's perfect," he whispered to an exhausted but radiant Zara. "Just like her mother." Zara smiled, reaching for his hand. "Who would have thought? All those years building our separate lives, and it took my sister's wedding to bring us together." "I should send them a better anniversary gift," Flynn joked. As Lily grew from baby to toddler to precocious child, Flynn and Zara balanced their careers with family life. They established a charitable foundation focused on community development and affordable housing, combining Flynn's business acumen with Zara's talent for bringing people together. Their differences in wealth never came between them. Flynn's millions were just a fact of life, neither hidden nor flaunted. On their 5th anniversary, they returned to the same Italian restaurant in the North End where they'd had their first real date. The owner, now gray-haired but still energetic, remembered them and led them to their table under the brick archway. "Did you ever imagine this is where we'd end up?" Flynn asked, taking Zara's hand across the table. "That night at Eric and Melanie's rehearsal dinner." Zara squeezed his fingers, her wedding ring catching the candlelight. "Honestly, no, you were so intimidating in your perfect suit with your reputation preceding you. And you were so busy making everything perfect for everyone else, I wasn't sure you'd ever slow down enough to let someone take care of you." "I still don't need taking care of," Zara reminded him with a smile. "I know, that's why I love you." Flynn raised his wine glass. "To unexpected meetings. To seeing past first impressions," Zara added. As they clinked glasses, Flynn thought about the twists of fate that had brought them together. He'd built a fortune by calculating risks and anticipating outcomes. But the best thing in his life had been completely unplanned, a chance meeting at a rehearsal dinner where he'd never expected to find love. Later that night, back in their Boston home with Lily sleeping peacefully upstairs, Flynn held Zara close as they stood on their terrace overlooking the harbor. "Thank you," he said softly into her hair. "For what?" "For taking a chance on me. For seeing me, not my bank account." Zara turned in his arms to face him. "The money never mattered, Flynn. It was always your heart that I fell in love with. And here I thought it was my motorcycle restoration skills," he teased. Zara laughed, the same laugh that had captured his attention years ago. "Well, those didn't hurt. But it was definitely your heart." As they stood together under the stars, Flynn reflected on how his definition of wealth had changed. Once measured in properties acquired and deals closed, he now counted it in moments shared with Zara and Lily, in the family they'd built together, and in the love that had begun with an unexpected meeting at his brother's rehearsal dinner.